The Wednesday Warmup.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wednesday Warmup. I'm your host, Danielle Dubois, alongside my co-host, Millan Jane. Now, Millan, we are going into week 11, so we will give you our predictions of week 11. But first, we're going to recap a game from week 10, and that is the Patriots-Ravens. Millan, take it away.
Yeah, this game was. If you hadn't even watched the last week's episode, I predicted the Ravens. I'm not gonna lie. But I said in this episode, I have a feeling that the Patriots could maybe try to make a push for a win here, and they did. They came out and they looked great. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The Ravens looked god awful last on Sunday night. You know, there was snaps flying everywhere. Lamar Jackson couldn't get anything. Danielle, I remember I talked to you. The Ravens looked pretty good in the beginning of the game, the first maybe 5-10 minutes of the game. And then I said, you guys need to stop the run, and that's how you're going to win this game. Patriots were able to stop the run, and they forced Lamar Jackson to throw the ball, and he couldn't do it. Now, granted, it was raining, and it was wet, and it was windy, so that might have had an effect. But still, I think the Patriots played amazing. This is the first time, in my opinion, that we've seen this Patriots play amazing and perfect. And we saw Cam Newton continue to play perfect. I thought he played perfect pretty much against Buffalo. Obviously, that fumble that cost him the game. He played perfect, in my opinion, against the Jets, and he continued to play perfect here against the Ravens. And now it comes to talk that this Patriots team could be in the hunt for the playoffs. And as a Steelers fan, and I can bet you as a Chiefs fan, even the Ravens fan, I would much rather take Cleveland Browns as it is right now, because I know it's going to be Cleveland and New England fighting for that last spot. And I think I'd much rather see Cleveland in the playoffs than New England, because pretty much right now, New England's going to be playing on we cannot lose another game. And from now till the playoff times, they're not going to want to lose another game. They're going to pretend it's the playoffs. And come playoff time, Bill Belichick and single elimination games, we know what he's capable of. And so I think this team can get really hot as teams go on, and I think this is a team that we got to watch out for.
I can agree with that. So, honestly, as a Patriots fan, I wasn't biased going into this past game. I was like, I know for a fact we probably aren't going to win. And I'm not that kind of fan who's like, oh, just because I root for them means I think they're gonna win every game, because I go off of statistics and what we've seen, and I'm just pretty honest. And so I knew going into this game we were going to lose, and I thought we were going to get demolished. Now, Lamar, I knew going into this he was been kind of not having his best year, but he's been pretty decent overall. But if he cannot run the ball, then he can't pass the ball. He can every once in a while, but it's not consistent. It's nothing that you can constantly win games with. So I was like, oh, maybe the Patriots will be able to stop the run. We have a pretty good defense, but we'll see. We're most likely to get blown out. I was proven wrong, and I'm fine with that. I think the Patriots played the best that they have this year. Exactly like you were saying, that Cam had almost a perfect game, maybe one or two mishaps, but I mean, that's every quarterback, and it happens because they're humans. But I agree with you. I think if they continue to put in the work, and with Bill Belichick as their coach, and who knows a playoff situation, and he's going to treat it like it's the playoffs, like you were saying, and under Bill Belichick, I have strong hope that they could be a wild card team if they just keep this up. We have to see.
And we have to think that Bill Belichick has been in this situation before. He's been in a situation when he has a good quarterback and not so good wide receivers supporting this quarterback, and he's made it work. So I have no doubts in Bill Belichick's ability to make it work. So I'd be scared if I was any other team if this team makes it to the playoffs.
We will see. I'm really optimistic and just interested. I've never been this interested to see a Patriots situation, because it's either oh, they're for sure going to the playoffs every year. But now I'm like, ooh, drama. Moving on into week 11, the very first game of this week is the Thursday night game, which is the 6-3 Cardinals against the 6-3 Seahawks, a very even matchup. And I think this is going to be a great game. Now, every week we talk about Kyler Murray, but he has been amazing. And that last throw of the game that let them win the game this week was amazing. It was a great throw. DeAndre Hopkins, amazing catch, because he was guarded by 3 defenders. So it was amazing catch by him. Honestly, that's more of DeAndre Hopkins props than Kyler. But Kyler has shown up. He can lead his team. His team has made mistakes in the past, but he knows how to work through them and continue growing in it. He takes every week as a growing situation. And the Seahawks don't have a defense right now. We have seen this multiple weeks in the past that they do not have the defense to stop anything. Even though they have a good offense, especially with Lockett, Metcalf, and Russell Wilson, they do not have the defense to back it up. And I don't think they're going to be able to stop Kyler Murray. So I'm going to give Kyler Murray the win here.
Yeah, I remember us watching the first game when they played in Arizona, and it came it went to overtime, and I think the Cardinals won that game with DK's insane chase down after Russell Wilson pick. And this was when we were still trying to figure out the Cardinals of who are they? Like, are they going to be like that good? Now we know that they're legit. We know that Kyler Murray is going to lead this team. We know that DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the NFL. And we also know that Seattle's defense is not good. And when a defense is not good, you're going to have to rely on your quarterback. And we saw that last week against a really good Rams team, and Seattle couldn't do it. I know this game is in Seattle, but I'm giving this one to Arizona. This will be a good test for Arizona. And against good tests, they've come out and played well. So I'm going to give this one to the Cardinals. I think they could win. I think Seattle needs to take a step back and say, hey, what do we need to do to win and to get back to winning?
And I think going into kind of the playoff weeks and the upcoming weeks as like who's going to be in the playoffs for sure and who's not, I think the Cardinals are going to be a team that you won't want to play in the playoffs because I feel like they're just going to take this energy that they have and continue it and grow it even more. So I feel like when playoffs come, they are going to be a dirty team and a team to kind of be scared about if you're playing them. Going into these Sunday games, we start off with the 2-6-1 Bengals against the 2-7 Washington football team. I'm going to be honest, this is an awful game. No team against each other, they both aren't good. I'm going to give the Bengals the win on this one just because they have Burrows. Even though Burrows is still trying to test the water of the NFL situation, he's still not fully comfortable with his surroundings yet. I feel like he's going to have a way more of a chance against the Washington football team.
No, I agree. I think we've seen Burrows take the first step in making it to the NFL where he can blow out bad football teams. You know, I think Burrows is very good for the quarterback that we expected him to be. We didn't expect him to go out and, compete against the Ravens or the Chiefs. But I thought he's played very well. Since week 6, he's led the league in passes, touchdown passes, whatever. And then he finally met a real legitimate team, and he basically got a warm welcome against the Steelers that this is AFC North ball. So he's not ready to compete against the legitimate teams yet, but he can still play around with the okay average teams. And this is going to be a below average team. I think Joe Burrows is good enough. I like the direction that they're heading. I think in a couple years that Burrows and this Bengals team are going to be a real contender in the AFC. But I think for now, I think they won't be. But this is a football team that lost Kyle Allen. They got Alex Smith, who hasn't been the same Alex Smith before he hurt his leg. So I'm giving this one to the Bengals.
The next game, I think is going to be pretty interesting because I think it can go either way, is the 3-6 Falcons against the 7-2 Saints. Now, a lot of the times I would have just given it straight to the Saints. I'm still going to give it to the Saints, but it's kind of iffy, especially with Drew Brees recently getting hurt in the last game with fractured ribs and a punctured lung. He's going to be out for most likely a few weeks, if not the rest of the season. This is a hard injury to recover from, especially if you're a quarterback and you're going to get sacked a lot, so he needs to make sure he's fully recovered before coming back. The Saints, though, even though they don't have Drew Brees, they still have Jameis Winston and Tyson Hill to fill in if needed, and I think they can fill in Drew Brees' shoes. Now, obviously, they're not going to be super great passing-wise, but they can easily just give it to one of their running backs, such as Kamara, who can easily run it and carry their team. We saw Kamara carry their team to a close game this past Sunday, but they still pulled out a win, and I'd say Kamara mostly ruled that game, and he was the reason why they won, especially with 3 touchdowns. And I think he can keep that up. The Falcons don't have the defense to stop the run at all. While they have a great offense and they're still trying to figure out things with their new manager, I'm still going to give it to the Saints.
Yeah, I'm giving it to the Saints, and I think Jameis Winston will get to start QB. And he's a guy that I've been excited to see. He was terrible on Tampa Bay, and he has a new start now. And he doesn't have to be as good as Drew Brees. He doesn't have to be anywhere near. He has Kamara, he has Michael Thomas, he has the weapons to get the job done. And he also has a really good defense that has gotten a lot better. I think what you said in the beginning of the season, the 2 losses that the Saints have, the defense was just not there. But now they're getting stops, they're getting turnovers, they're getting pressure, And against a really, really struggling offensive line, the Saints team could absolutely terrorize Matt Ryan. On the flip side, the Falcons run defense is not very good. They have Kamara, one of the best running backs in the NFL. You can hit him with the screen. You can hit him with a straight run down the middle. There's a lot of ways that this Saints team could attack you, and especially against a really struggling line on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I think the Saints are going to have their way and get the win here.
The next game is the 9-0 Steelers take on the 1-8 Jaguars. I'm going to give it to the Steelers. Now, even though they have a past of doing pretty bad against bad teams and giving it up, I still feel like they'll be easily able to beat the Jaguars just because they've gotten into their groove where they can easily blow out a team. This is a team they should easily blow out. The Jaguars have put up some competition these past few weeks, and they've been better than we think. Even though they have a 1-8 record, they're still one of the better awful teams, if that makes sense. So maybe they'll put up a few amount of points next to the Steelers, but I feel like the Steelers are going to win this one.
I mean, this is the game that I'm actually really nervous for, because the Steelers, again, are facing a rookie quarterback. And let's be honest, Danielle, what happened last time that we faced a rookie quarterback in the Dallas Cowboys? We almost lost that game. Now, they're also facing a lower-level team in points allowed. Like, they give up a lot of points, and they've had their way against the Green Bay Packers, almost won that game. Let's not forget, we have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, in my opinion, who should be in the Hall of Fame race. He should be in the MVP race. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy about that. Russell Wilson, I think we both can agree, has lowered on that list. I think Kyler Murray should be at least on that list. I think Kamara should be on that list, even though they don't really give it to running backs or anything. But I think Ben Roethlisberger should be on this list. Number one, he has 29 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He leads the league in like a less amount of interceptions thrown. He's on the lowest amount of interceptions in the league. He also is 9-0, but not because he's explosive, because you don't need to be explosive to win games. When it comes to January, what is the formula to win a game? You need to win a game come playoff time. Ben Roethlisberger has shown that he can win games. It doesn't have to be ugly. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be explosive. He was won games, and for me, I think that's what we need to see. He's not really doing too much. He's just getting the ball out of his hands fast and letting his playmakers do the work. And I think that we saw it last week with against the Bengals. He did nothing pretty much. He threw 4 touchdown passes, but he's got the ball out of his hands. Let Juju, Connor, anyone do the work. I think the run defense still needs to be fixed a little bit, and I think the rushing attack needs to be fixed a little bit. Connor's not doing very well. We let up a little bit more run. We let a little bit more running yards up against Giannato Bernard. So there's a couple of small things that we need to fix. But I think I'm not going to pick against the Steelers until I have to. I'm giving this one to the Steelers on this one. But I hope to see the Steelers blow out this Jaguars team before a big matchup Thanksgiving night against the Ravens.
The next game is the 4-5 Patriots take on the 2-7 Texans. Now, the Texans, even though they have Deshaun Watson, who can be a really great quarterback, he has not lived up to that title at all. I don't think he's led the team at all this year, and he's kind of just not done as well as I expected him to. I had him on my fantasy team just as a backup in case Patrick Mahomes got hurt for some reason, but I dropped him after 3 or 4 weeks just because I wasn't seeing the output that I wanted from him. I expected him to be really great, and he's a pretty solid quarterback. A lot of people think that he could be a good top 10 quarterback, but I don't think he's playing to that potential this year. That being said, Cam has finally gotten into his groove, especially coming back after COVID. You can see him, he kind of got into his groove at first, and then he had COVID and he had to go out for a few weeks, so that kind of messed up him a little bit. But I think he is on the road to being a great quarterback now with the Patriots. He's finally figured it out. They have Bill Belichick, who is, like you said earlier that we talked about, who's acting like this is the playoffs. They need to keep winning games in order to be that wild card spot and to actually make it further into the playoffs than they wanted to. So I think the Patriots can easily win this one. The Texans have not shown up this year offensively or defensively, so I feel like the Patriots could take them.
I think Deshaun Watson could easily be a top 5 QB. Not playing it this year, number one, because he lost his number 1 wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and now he has nobody to throw to. Defensively on the balls, there's a lot of holes, especially in the secondary. And I think now that we've seen Cam Newton gain the confidence, I think Cam Newton's absolutely going to obliterate the secondary of the Texans. And I think this Patriots team is going confidence now. It's the second straight win and going down to a lesser team that they should win. So I don't see any reason why this Patriots team cannot go in there and come out with a dub very easily too. It should be a multiple score game. Let's not forget the game that they lost. They lost to the Seahawks by 1 point, or but not by 1 point, but like by one. It was one play and they lost. That came down to that last play. They played very well in my opinion against the Chiefs. They beat a very good Raiders team. They've beaten some good teams. They beat the Ravens. So I think this team is still legitimate. They're not winning, very cleanly. They're winning ugly, but it still wins at the end of the day. So I think this Patriots team will be able to pull out a win here.
The next game is the 3-5-1 Eagles take on the 6-3 Browns. Now the Eagles have not shown up at all offensively this year. I have not seen the high-scoring Eagles team that you've seen in the past, and Carson Wentz is just not a great quarterback this year. I honestly don't have a lot of good things to say about him because he can't lead a team. Can't throw as much as you think he should be able to. He's just not a great quarterback. Their defense is not good at all either. They cannot back up anything. I think their defense got 2 points defensively last week or 2 weeks ago, so nothing too great there. The Browns, on the other hand, have done really well this year, especially with the 6-3 record. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that at all. They put up a fight too, playing some pretty good teams. We've seen that they can show up offensively and defensively. I feel like they'll be able to stop Carson Wentz very easily. I'm gonna give this win to the Browns.
I'm gonna go to the Browns, and pretty much all you said. The Eagles haven't really showed that they can play on both sides of the ball. The Browns, you say they show up offensively, defensively, and they do, but they don't show up because of Baker Mayfield. When you put the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands, we both have seen that he cannot do it, and they're giving the ball off to Chubb, and that's why it was such a low-scoring game last week against the Texans, because they didn't really pass the ball that much. They were giving the ball to Chubb, the Hunt, giving short plays. They're not trusting Baker Mayfield, and you're gonna be screwed if you can't trust your quarterback come playoff time. I think they're still gonna get the win here because the Eagles are absolutely awful, but they're gonna have to figure something out. Otherwise, Baker can't be your quarterback if you can't trust them.
The next game is the 4-5 Lions take on the 3-7 Panthers. Now, the Panthers are just trying to get their groove back after losing Cam Newton, and they obviously have not really figured out that formula to be a pretty high-scoring offensively team. On the other hand, I'd much rather trust Matthew Stafford against the Panthers, so I'm going to give it to the Lions.
I'm giving this one to the Panthers. I don't trust Matthew Stafford at all. He showed that he could be trusted. I don't know. I feel like this is the perfect game that he would not do well in. The Panthers are they're adjusting well. Obviously it's tough to adjust after losing Cam Newton, but they're doing pretty well, better than I thought they would. They have a sneakily good offense and a sneakily good defense. They're quietly making some type of noise. You're not going to be a playoff contender by any shot, but they're just like, they're going to be the team that wins more games than we probably expect them to. And I think they're going to go and their pass rush is getting a lot better, and I think they're going to give Matt Stafford a lot of problems. So I'm giving this one to the Panthers.
Oh, interesting. I see what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I can see how Matthew Stafford would lose out there, but we'll see. The last 1 o'clock game is the 6-3 Titans take on the 6-3 Ravens. This is going to be a good game. Once again, an even matchup, so one of them has to break the record here. I'm going to give this one to the Titans because the Ravens can't block runs. They can't. We see this with the Patriots this week, and the Patriots aren't known for running backs. Like, we have White, and Burkhead sometimes runs for some reason, and Cam Newton is our first running quarterback that we've had in a while. So he obviously ran a lot, but they weren't able to stop that at all. And the Patriots didn't win against the Ravens because of passing. They won because they were able to run the ball so much on them, and they just ran over the Ravens. And the Ravens, if they don't change that this week, they are not going to stand a chance against Derrick Henry because he will run all over them.
Yeah, you brought up something that I completely forgot to bring up too. Patriots were just having their way on Baltimore, who has one of the best run defenses in the NFL, and they just had their way. Now you're going to face Derrick Henry. And if you can't stop New England, how are you going to stop Derrick Henry? Let's not forget, Ryan Tannehill also can throw the ball. We saw that last week. Obviously, they lost to Indianapolis, but they can still throw the ball. They got A.J. Brown. They got a lot of good guys on this team. It's going to be their defense that's going to have to step up big time. Patriots defense stepped up. I think the Titans can step up too, so I'm giving this one to the Titans.
The first 4 o'clock game is the 0-9 Jets take on the 2-7 Chargers. I feel like this one's kind of obvious. I'm gonna say the Chargers are gonna win this one. Justin Herbert has been a pretty great quarterback. I think he can lead a team if he has better weapons. Once he gets more better weapons on his team, I think they're gonna be a really dirty team once they get some more offensive weapons. But the Jets don't really stand a chance against Justin Herbert, I would say.
Yeah, I would have to say Justin Herbert's been playing well. They can't close out games by any means. And you can't. But this is the Jets, man. There's not really much to say. They're not good. It's going to be a tough, long game. I think this would be a good game for Justin Herbert to get back his mojo and win a game.
I must say though, the Jets had put up a surprising amount of points to still have an 0-9 record.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, the Patriots barely beat them, but I mean, the Patriots. There wasn't a lot good to say to them at that point, but still, they put up a fight in all of their games, which is kind of scary. Like, they almost won over the Bills a few weeks ago. The next game is the 6-3 Dolphins take on the 3-6 Broncos. I'm going to give this one to the Dolphins just because we've seen Tua been really great these past few weeks that he's been starting, but not only has he been really great, but he's kind of started getting into his groove, which is really shocking for a first-year NFL quarterback coming from a college atmosphere. It's completely different. It takes a lot of adjustment to get to. We've seen Joe Burrow's done okay at it, but he has not adjusted at all. Where Tua, he snapped into it. He realized that he's going to learn from his mistakes, and he's grown a lot as a quarterback, and he can lead his team. Even though he's young, he leads his team really great, and they have a great drive. The Dolphins have showed up. They've showed that they're a really great team this year, a team to be frightened by, honestly. So I don't think the Broncos stand a chance against them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking forward to that Week 17 matchup between the Bills and the Dolphins to see, because that's probably going to see who's going to win this division, in my opinion. I like Tua. I like what he's been doing. He's been accurate. He's getting the ball out quickly. But let's not forget, it's not just a Tua show. Everyone's thinking, oh, it's Tua. No, it's also the defense that showed up. They blocked 2 punts last week. They're turning over the ball over. Something's changed in Miami. Maybe it's because of Tua, but something's changed for the better. And I like the Dolphins now. They're going to be a wild card team. This is why it's going to be the Dolphins. It's going to most likely be the Ravens. And it's going to be one more team: Browns, Raiders, and Patriots. One of the three are going to fight out for that seventh wild card spot, and it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, back to it. I'm going to give this one to the Dolphins very easily against a very struggling defensively team in the Denver Broncos.
The next game is the 2-7 Cowboys take on the 4-5 Vikings. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've been really mean to the Vikings lately. I've literally said that they were trash for the past few weeks, but now that I'm looking at it, they have the exact same record as the Patriots. So that's on me. But honestly, the Vikings showed out a pretty good game last night, or 2 nights ago. And they've done better. They started off looking completely awful at the beginning of this year, but they've grown such as exactly like the Patriots. But I'm gonna give it to the Vikings because the Cowboys don't have much going for them offensively or defensively. On defense, they cannot stop anything, and with their offense struggling quarterback wise and wide receiver wise, I'm gonna give it to the Vikings.
And we to the Vikings. I think Dalvin Cook's gonna absolutely run over this Cowboys defense. It's gonna be an interesting game. I'm excited to see maybe the Vikings. They're not gonna make a push for the playoffs, but they could be a team that ruins a lot of teams. They could be the spoiler because there's always one spoiler. I think that can be the Vikings. They're finally trying to figure themselves out. And it'll be interesting to see what the Vikings can do. They played very well 2 nights ago against the Bears, and so I'll be excited to see what they do. So I think I'm gonna give this one to the Vikings.
The next game is the 7-2 Packers take on the 6-3 Colts. I'm going to give this one to the Packers just because they have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and they have a great defense. We've seen their defense be pretty good this year. I honestly thought they were lacking at the beginning of this year, but they've showed up and they've grown in their mistakes. I think the Packers can take the Colts, even though the Colts have one of the best defenses in the league right behind the Steelers. I still think the Packers can give them a run for their money.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I'm going to take the Colts on this one. One, because I took the Titans, and I was very confident last week that the Titans would absolutely steamroll the Colts, and that was bad. This is what we've seen. Colts, like you said, have one of the best defenses in the NFL. But it's the offense that we worry about because you got Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was able to show up, and I know it's the Titans. We don't have the best, and it's going to be a step up against Green Bay. But I think the fact that Green Bay got tossed around a little bit by Jacksonville, yes, they came out with a win, but the fact that they got tossed around is kind of scary for me. I think with if they got tossed around with a very okay defense, how is Rodgers going to react to a very good defense in the Indianapolis Colts? So if Phillip Rivers can play pretty well, I'm gonna give this one to the Colts.
I think no matter what, though, it's going to be a close game no matter what. It's just going to come down. It's going to come down to, honestly, offensively, who does better, just because both of them have a pretty solid defense.
And if you take Phillips, if it comes down to offense, I think anyone would take Rodgers over Phillips.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm still giving this one to the underdog here and hope for the best.
The Sunday night game is the 8-1 Chiefs take on the 6-3 Raiders. This is going to be a solid game. I think the Raiders will put up some points here. I think it's going to be a closer game that the Chiefs have played, but I still think the Chiefs are going to win just because they don't have the best defense in the league, but they get by. They have the kind of defense where they're like, okay, we can kind of rely off our offense, and it'll be okay. But I think that Kansas City will give the Raiders a run for the money because while the Raiders have a good defense, they don't have a good enough defense to stop Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, this will be interesting. But let's not forget, the Chiefs have lost one game. One game. Not one game was against Oakland, or against Las Vegas, sorry. In Kansas City. So you would have to think that this is a very fun game. I'm very excited to watch this game. So you have to think that it's not going to be like that easy. I can't just give Kansas City as a win. Because number one, Oakland is very good. They're also in the conversation for the wild card spot, and they played very well this whole season. And again, you also I can't really bet against Patrick Mahomes. I just can't do it. And this game that they played against the Raiders, it was a close game. It was a one-score game. I think this time, they're on the road, but I think Patrick Mahomes will be able to get it done here, and I'm giving this one to the Chiefs.
Especially coming off a bye week, they've rested, they've worked hard. I think they're going to be prepared to.
2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to prepare. So.
Yeah. The last game of this week is the Monday night game, and it is the 6-3 Rams taking on the 7-3 Bucks. Now the Rams are doing way better than I thought. Reading 6-3, every time I read the Rams score, I'm like, wow, they've won that many games. It's kind of insane because before this year, the Rams have been completely irrelevant. Sorry, Rams fans, but nobody really talked about you. I mean, they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl a few years ago, but that was quite most likely the most awful Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life. It was not entertaining at all. 13-3 is not a good Super Bowl score, guys. But that being said, I'm gonna give it to the Bucks. Tom Brady did amazing this past week. I honestly didn't think he was going to do that good, especially after having a really bad week. I thought he was going to get it back, but not be his complete best. But I think they're on a roll, and I think that they are working really hard to be a really good playoff team, and I think that's what they've been preparing for all this time. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm still going to give it to the Bucks.
I'm giving it to the Bucks. Tom Brady played great. 3 touchdowns and 100 yards, especially coming off a really ugly loss. And I like what the Rams are doing, but I don't think the Rams will be able to stop this very, very good offense. Ronald Jones, running back for the Buccaneers, has looked very good. In my opinion, should be the running back of the week, or one of the running backs of the week. I don't think Kamara was nominated for that for some reason, but Ronald Jones was, and he played well. I think Brady's at home gonna continue off his hot streak, and when they're still trying to figure themselves out. They're getting new guys in the mix. AB's finally in the mix, getting into some action. So I like what I'm seeing from this Buccaneers team, finally starting to get hot like we see them.
Also, going back to a game that we said earlier, I just thought about this, the Panthers-Lions game. The Panthers are still going to have Christian McCaffrey out, so I think that's also going to hurt them. He was supposed to come back this week, but his shoulder injury is worse than they think. So I don't think he'll be playing for a while, which is great for my fantasy team. That being said, Millan, what is your lock for this week?
I was looking at the locks this week, and I really, there's so many different locks that I could go with. I originally was taking the Bengals over the football team. That's gonna be a really good lock. The Browns over the Eagles. But I'm actually gonna go with the very, very boring lock of the week. I'm picking my boys this week. I'm going with the Steelers over the Jags. my opinion, the Steelers are a very, very good team. I think the Chiefs are a little bit better, like I said, but I think the Steelers could, as time goes on, be able to keep up with the Chiefs. I think, like I said, Ben Roethlisberger should be in the MVP candidate race. Let's not forget, Bengals had a bye week last week, had 2 weeks to prepare for the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger did not practice once over last week and still threw over 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes with no practice time. So for me, he's finding a way to win games. He's doing well, and I think he's going to keep it up against this really struggling Jaguars team.
I'm going to go for not as boring of a lock. It's still kind of boring, but not as boring. I'm going to say the Dolphins are my lock against the Broncos just because I feel like that's going to be an easy win for them. They've had to face some pretty hard teams, and if they put up that much of a fight against Kyler Murray, I think they can go against a team with not a good quarterback at all.
Yes.
That being said, we are going to wrap up our Week 11 episode of the Wednesday Warm-Up. Thank you so much for joining us again, and join us right here next Wednesday for Week 12. Bye, guys.